again and welcome back. I'm Manisha Tank and you join us on the Global Common Channel. This is the Singapore FinTech Festival 2020 and it is the day 2, the Infrastructure Summit. Now, one of the conversations that I spoke about a little bit earlier was that around the future of resilience. All of this coming up, these next couple of episodes are in conjunction with the Milken Institute. So normally, in the back half of the year here in Singapore, the Milken Institute holds their Asia Summit, and it's an opportunity to hear conversations about some of the really big issues facing the world from speakers who are from all different walks of life. Now, coming up shortly, a good friend of mine, Curtis Chin, who is a fellow at the Milken Institute, will be speaking to actress Goldie Hawn. But what a lot of you might not know is that Goldie Hawn runs the Hawn Foundation. One of the initiatives that she runs there is called mindup.org. If you ever have a moment, you might like to look at the website, but there you'll learn a little bit more about it. It is all designed around children in particular and boosting their resilience when it comes to issues that can create signs of despair and depression. In fact, she's been very worried about anxiety, depression, aggression, and all sorts of issues that are plaguing the youth of today, particularly in America. So in her call to action, she created a program that would help kids learn how to regulate their emotions, become more resilient, and learn about how their brain works. And of course, if you scale this up, this is something that many adults all over the world can benefit from as well. So that was the core of the conversation that went on between Curtis and Goldie. And this is, of course, amid the unprecedented pressure that COVID-19 has placed on mental health. Again, I mentioned this earlier, but this was something we saw during the Economic Summit where we heard from Deepak Chopra. Many of you know him for his work in the field of meditation and the many, many books he has written. Self-help books, you could call them, but they're more about self-help and developing as an individual. So without further ado, I do believe that I can cross over to Curtis and Goldie, and we can hear that conversation on mental health.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all around the world. We're delighted to have joined us at this year's Asia Summit, Goldie Hawn. What a joy, actually. I've been able to see Goldie at some of our prior in-person events in Los Angeles. But how cool this year, one of those silver linings of this terrible pandemic we're facing is the chance to have Goldie join us virtually in Singapore. I myself am on the East Coast of the US, so it's really a virtual gathering, which is so special. I'm sure all around the world people know Goldie as an Academy Award-winning actress, producer, director, someone who brings joy through all of her performances and through events like this, and most recently even as Mrs. Claus. On a Netflix movie. So talk about joy, Mrs. Claus and Goldie Hawn, how cool is that? But really, we're here with Goldie today because of her terrific and really long-time work on issues related to mental health, to resilience, which is the theme of our session today, and really reconnecting and reimagining. So thank you, Goldie. Really, I'm just gonna really turn a lot over to you and really begin by asking about your own journey through these decades, and then more specifically about the work and lessons that we all can take from Mind Up, which is really the signature program of the Goldie Hawn Foundation.
Oh, yes. I mean, I really had quite a journey, because my journey started when I was a dancer, and then I came to Hollywood and danced in a TV show. And I really had bigger plans. I was going to get married. I was going to open a dancing school. I was going to be happy. I had a lot of ways of looking at my life. But it happened so that I became anxious, all right? So I had what one would call sort of a panic attack, and I would have them in the various areas. There may be when I would go to a restaurant, or I'd go out, or I didn't know what was going on with me, but I knew I needed help. And I needed help because my nature is to be happy. And my wish was always to be happy. From 11 years old, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I always said, happy. On the other hand, when I realized that I was anxious, where a lot of people are anxious today, a lot don't know what their future holds. A lot of them are feeling upset, fearful, uncertain. A lot of these emotions that are very, very, very hard to deal with and can end up in a very negative state of mind. I decided to go and seek help. I did. For a while. It was incredible. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about my upbringing and a lot about my brain. And then I decided that I was going to take and study what was then very popular in 1972, meditation. And I did. And it was an extraordinary experience that I had while I was meditating, because I felt incredible, like I met myself. I felt strong. I felt joyful. I felt like giggling. It was so interesting. What my experience was very shocking to me. Slowly, I became very, I would say, healthier, more able to manage my emotions, more understanding what was going on. And as I became more successful, people then would come up to me, and some liked my performance, some didn't, but I would always look at them as a witness and not someone that took to heart a lot of it, because they would look at me but didn't really know me. So I was able to create a vision and an oversight. And then all the years of my producing and the acting and all the things that I've done over the years, it was a time when I was noticing children were not as happy as they should be, that every child should have a right to their happiness. And our society was complex. Our marriages were breaking up. Children were really suffering. And that's a soft spot in my heart, because I can't bear a sad child. Anyway, 9/11 happened, and I started looking at that point as to where and how I could in some way help, because I know that this silent distress was leading to something that would not be uncovered, and we would not be able to look at the mental health issues that were happening with our children, because they can't tell you. They can't explain what they're feeling. And we all think children are happy and that they should be happy, and that's the way they are, and children don't. No, they pick everything up. So I started looking at the suicide rates of 10-year-olds to 15-year-olds, the second leading cause of death. I couldn't believe it. And this is before now, this is right after 9/11. And then I saw the anxiety and also the psychotropic drugs that we're giving our children, and how they would gaze out the window, or they'd be disruptive, and suddenly they had a problem, so they were being medicated. And I thought, wait a minute, something must be done. Because now, after this period of time, I had learned a lot about the brain, a lot about meditation and the brain and the effects of it on the brain. It wasn't religion. It wasn't spirituality. It wasn't any of those things. It was about the brain. And what are we feeding our children? What are we giving them in their classroom? This is where they learn. We ask them to learn, but we don't teach them about their brain. They don't know the aspects of their brain that actually they can develop to make better and more malleable, and learn more, and actually learn how to create a reservoir of joy and happiness inside of them, that it doesn't have to live outside. It can live inside. And that's what I wanted to do. So I created, like a producer would, and I produced a lot of movies, and this one I produced, and I said, might be the best script I've ever produced, but I got great writers. I got psychologists, positive psychologists, neuroscientists, teachers, and practitioners. And I brought them into the room, and for 18 months was created Mind Up. And Mind Up is a program that is foundational. You wrap your curriculum around it, and it really helps children become more resilient and also manage their emotions. They realize the midsection of the brain, that's the amygdala. That's where they get the fight, flight, or freeze. That's where they get scared. That's where they say things they shouldn't because they're just so upset. They learn to breathe and focus. They learn what breath can do to your brain, to understand how it can relax you and take stress away, so you can think better, you can remember better, and you can learn better. So when they have all this information about their brain, then they know that the executive function, which is the big part of our brain here, that's amazing. And now it lights up, because now we've quieted down our midbrain, where it goes into frenzy, we go fearful, we don't know what's going to happen, we don't know, and the brain is just going, blah, 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 blah. And then we do the prefrontal cortex. And that thing is incredible, because now we can think, we can analyze, we can look at critical thinking, we can figure things out. And also that part of the brain is that left side is kind of where happiness is, and how we're able to really understand that we can stimulate certain parts of our brain, like dopamine. And we do kind of the dopamine dance sometimes, because in the classroom, because we should feel joy. Even if you don't, like you're an introvert or whatever, you still can feel a level of happiness. Something I learned about happiness is that we're born with a set point, but we can improve it to 40% just by our activities and just by the habituation of positive activities that change the way your brain fires. So your neurons are firing, boom, boom, boom. The brain thinks no matter what. You can't stop your brain from thinking. But we'll talk a little later as we have a conversation about how we actually do quiet the mind. How does that happen? What can we do to do that? So I think it's to get clear about why I'm doing this and have for the last 20 years of my life, is that if we don't start understanding that the children of the world, that's Asia, where we have schools there. We're talking now at Singapore, who wants to bring mind up to, not to Singapore, to Shanghai. So we're working in different areas all over the world. We're in Portugal, we're in the UK, we're in Ireland, we're in Serbia, we're in Finland, we're in Australia, we're in Canada, where we started, in the US, and some in Spain. Point being, sorry about that. Everybody needs the program, or a program like this. It isn't about culture, but go ahead.
Absolutely. One thing I was really struck by in going through some of the programs, and I would say to people that if it's not yet in your kids' schools, try and get it there, but go to mindup.org, where actually a lot of the things that you had shared is also in video, in materials. And what I found was that I think it appeals to people all around this world. And I was really struck by that key phrase, evidence-based, and that program was built. There was a quote that I wanted to read that I pulled from you, which was that when you began the Goldie Hawn Foundation, I, meaning you, I knew that I had to do something to remedy the stress and anxiety children were experiencing. Every child deserves an equal chance to thrive. And so together with researchers, scientists, and educators, I created the Mind Up program. So, how special, congratulations, in these first 2 decades. And so I do encourage people to go to the website, look at some of your videos. But I would say to you, even in this time that we have together, as you think about what parents can take away, it's a very difficult time right now with working from home, schooling from home. I kind of think in my household, it's online not learning. What can we do to get our kids to pay attention, be mindful? What can you share with people at this time when we're trying to reinvent really our lives because of what we're going through right now?
We really are. I mean, this is we're all little pioneers right now, and soon. One thing that we do, I think, is to stay positive. Positive because look, we now have a vaccine. We're going to have many vaccines. We have a lot of brilliant people out there that are working for our well-being and our health, and it's going to be wonderful. And so the reality is that while our children are working this, it's not going to be this way forever, and we do have to realize that we're in this together. And I think one of the more important aspects of all of what's happening with our children today is that oftentimes our parents are just so stressed. They just don't know what to do. They go to work, they're trying to bring home money, they're trying to figure things out. Moms have to be home. Some of them had to leave their work to take care of their children. I mean, there are so many areas where we have to figure out what we're going to do. But we can't figure things out until we quiet our mind. If we don't quiet down our mind, then we can't figure things out. We're not there for our kids. We can't listen to them. And the most important thing in the whole world is you, mom and dad. There is nothing more important. And I think that we can get through anything if we're doing this together. And if our children feel that you're not listening, and our children feel that you don't care, and that you're just too upset and you can't focus on them, then they're going to feel it. And one thing is that this will not last forever. And I think it's important that we embody some way of opening up our heart and our mind to know that we're going to stick this out. We're going to do the right thing together. We're going to wear our mask. We're going to keep our hands washed. And we are gonna be a part of a solution here. And one of the areas of parenting and Mind Up, because we have a parent program that we're all putting online now, but the parent program is to help parents understand that they too need to quiet their mind. They too need to understand how to do that, because their midbrain, and that's the limbic system, and that's the emotional system of the brain, is on fire. And we try to put that fire out, but we can't put it out by thinking. We have to put it out by relaxing. We have to put it out by thinking, oh, I'm having a thought, let's go back to my breath. So where we leave today, I'll take us through a little bit of an understanding of a meditative state. But remember this, whether we're in Asia, or whether in Europe, or whether we're down under, or no matter where we are, this program and a meditative state, or we call it a brain break, we don't call it meditation, is vitally important for your brain health, your resilience, and your ability to think appropriately. Also, to take time to love. It's very important. Right now, we need it more than ever. So I don't know if it's a takeaway, but for your children and you, it's wonderful to sit down and have quiet time, which we will share in a moment if you've got other things. And and yes, definitely research. So your question was the beginning, which was bringing it up, is that I didn't want to go out until this program was researched. I mean, there was no reason, right? For me, Goldie Hawn, okay, I know what I did. I produced, I did, you name it. It's been great. It's been amazing. But what is she doing? Doing a school program, So literally, I wanted this to stand on its own. I wanted Mind Up to be the star. I didn't want me to be the star. I wanted Mind Up to be the one that goes in and helps these kids and teachers, by the way, and parents, how to manage their emotions, how them not to allow their emotions to take them away, to make them feel and do things that they should never do. So I think that's one of the ways I went in and researched it at University of British Columbia. Full stop. The research was so extraordinary. And what happened with these children in a few 12 weeks changed their whole perspective in a way that really said, okay, Goldie, you go, girl. Doesn't matter who you are. You get this program out there. And millions of children later, which we have had later, I can honestly say it's the greatest thing I feel I've ever done in my life.
Well, it's so important at a time like this, when I think about all that we're going through, just to bring it down, our time is running out, unfortunately, but to bring it down to my household, others, households out there, what does that mean? Sometimes I say, it's me or others who are afraid of these words, meditation or mindfulness, be mindful. What does that really mean in terms of what we can do? People always watch me. I'm always Mr. Optimist. You're out optimizing. Is that the word? Out optimisticing me. But I would say, indeed, we're going to get through this. But what are those tips? What are those things that I can take away now to help me get through it that you could share? And so out of this session, people can think, well, that's a beginning for me as I think differently, as I reinvent how I'm going to handle this pandemic.
Okay. Well, the first thing is that I would say that you should understand what a brain break is. Because that will help relax you and de-stress you. And when your stress is basically handled, or you feel okay, that's when you're able to understand a more positive outlook, okay? So what we do is that when we do have our brain break, we can use a bell or anything, especially for children. They love the bell and any kind of chime or anything, and they listen to it for a long period of time, as long as they can hear it. When they don't hear it anymore, they focus in on their breath. And when you focus in on your own breath, you realize that you take your breath and then you're breathing very shallow. Breathe deep into your belly and let it out 3 times and let it out. Breathe in and let it out. And then when you realize your belly is over, you listen to all this and you quiet down your breath. And now you follow your breath. What happens is the brain thinks, and it's thinking. What you do is these thoughts come and you let them go like clouds and you come back to your breath. Oh, I'm thinking again. Oh, No, that's just a thought. I'm going to bring it down to my breath. And it's an exercise in basically handling your own thoughts. Don't attach to your thoughts, all the catastrophizing and all. Just bring it back down to your breath. In which case you'll start feeling your body relaxing, and you'll do it with your child for 1 minute, 2 minutes. Get to know what it feels like to have that silence, that quietude, because that's what you're doing. You're basically becoming more resilient, and you're managing that. So the first thing you need to do is know that you need to calm down. So that's number one with the children. Number two, gratitude. Remember that 3 times a day, if you tell what we're grateful for, around the table, when we wake up in the morning, whenever you want to do it, let's all say what we're grateful for today. And the reason that gratitude works is because the brain responds. Dopamine is emitted in the brain. It creates more serotonin output, and it really makes you feel better. So we want to do these little positive things that actually the brain connects to. This is brain science. It's not woo-woo. It's not any of it. It's all been proven. There's research beyond research. So do some gratitude. And the other thing to do is do something kind for each other. Remember that our humanity is what has to survive. And by being kind is part of being human. And I think that's another thing that they can take away as well.
I think we've come to a close. But when I think of being mindful, it's one way, as you noted, being present. But also, as you said, to be kind. Be in this moment and be kind, and hopefully that will replicate and move forward. Goldie Hawn, I just really want to thank you for our time together. It went so fast. Again, I think from this session and others that I've seen with you through mindup.org, not to promote your program too much, but mindup.org. But there's so many great videos about these key points. And what was great for me that when I watch them and when I hear you, it's presented in a way just for like regular people to understand. Right? I went away confident knowing that it's evidence and science-based, but I don't need to be a scientist. But more importantly, the evidence shows that it works, whether you're back in Singapore or here where we both are in the United States. Really thankful for this time and really joyful in a way for this time. Thank you again, Goldie Hawn, for joining us at the Asia Summit.
Thanks so much. It's good to meet you.